Here's what we'll be covering today. YG Nyghtstorm has been fired by Church Militant. Michael Voris has moved again, and a new damning motion has been filed against Church Militant, Michael Voris, and Anita Carey. Let's start with Mr. Nyghtstorm. Right before Mr. Nyghtstorm was to board the Princess Cruise for the 2024 Retreat at Sea by Church Militant, he was fired by Church Militant, according to sources. On February 6, 2 days after the cruise departed, he posted this on X, formerly Twitter. Let me get you to it. And this was posted February 5th. Good morning, everyone. I'm no longer with Church Militant and St. Michael's Media. I did all I could to help, and I wish them well. I'm continuing my mission to evangelize in all communities and bringing people together. America is ready and we're built for this moment. Let's go. Then a few days later, he posted this. Some seek your guidance and then reject you for telling them the truth. Don't despair. Let it go, eat a meal, and move on to where your time and talents and wisdom will be appreciated. Make your next move epic. Well, everyone, I think that was a cryptic message about what happened to him and between Church Militant. So here's another thing. On Church Militant's website, which I want to show you this as well. This is the Retreat by Sea page for 2024. And right down here, exclusive presentations by Dr. Jules Gomez, Bradley Eli, and special guest presenter YG Nyghtstorm. So YG was supposed to be on that cruise. And apparently he was just either told the day of or maybe a few days before that he was no longer the executive director at Church Militant. Now, I tried to find anywhere on Church Militant's site whether they had announced that YG was no longer with them or whether that he had been replaced, and I couldn't find anything. But what I did find that was interesting, shortly after YG, he posted a well, what I should say is shortly after YG posted on Twitter that he was no longer there. I'm trying to find there it is. This is what Church Militant posted on Twitter. Hey, just wanted to let you know that Brad and Jules are currently enjoying themselves at the Retreat at Sea. No need to worry, though. This is a great opportunity for you to catch up on any episodes you might have missed. Feel free to check them out. This was exactly the same day that YG posted his cryptic message. So what is really going on there? Who knows? But on Church Militant's website, I looked for more information, and of course, there's nothing. The last mention of YG on Church Militant's website was on February 1st, and it was an article detailing his adventures on the Take the Border Back convoy, and it's been crickets since then. So nothing on X either, except this posting I just shared with you about Brad and Jules. Now, let's move on to Michael Voris. He has moved again, according to recent court documents. It appears he's still in the Houston area, but is now in an extended stay hotel. I'll just leave it right there and not go into it any further. Now, I want to bring in Christine Chrisleep to bring us up to speed on the latest damning motion that's been filed against church militant Michael Voris and Anita Carey. But let me just say this as a disclaimer. I'm not an attorney, and Christine is not an attorney. We're not giving legal advice. We're just going through the filed motion that was just filed this past week. And bear with us as we go through this because it's very detailed. And the other thing, I want to encourage you to stay till the end because I have some announcements and some guests to announce that's coming up on an upcoming episode before the end of February. So we've got 2 guests that are coming on. So stay till the end. So without any further ado, let's bring on Christine Chrisleep. Hi, Christine.
Always good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. And I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to go through this damning motion that was filed this week. But before we get to that, you kind of went on a reconnaissance mission, didn't you?
Well, I did. We were just, you had gotten some tips about, Michael's home in Detroit, and I didn't entirely recognize them. But we just wanted to confirm those facts, basically. And the easiest way to do that is to just drive up there and see, what's happening at Michael's house. And so I did that today, and it was pretty disturbing, I have to say, Christine, because the first thing that's disturbing is in front of Michael's house, he had 2 flagpoles. On one flagpole, he had, I think it's the Vatican banner, it's the one with the 2 keys, or maybe it's the Catholic Church flag, I'm not sure. So he had that banner up on one flagpole, and these are very prominent flagpoles. I mean, they're permanently mounted in the ground, quite tall, in his front yard. So that flag is totally gone, but remains an American flag on the other flagpole that is just in tatters. It was in such bad shape that, I got out my phone because I thought I remembered that you're never supposed to fly a tattered flag. And sure enough, you're not. That flag needs to be taken down immediately. And I would have done it, but obviously it's not my property. I'm not going on his property. It's a big flagpole and it's secured in various ways. I wasn't sure I could even get it down, but it's honestly, it's disgraceful, but potentially sort of, emblematic of what has happened to that home. And then when you when you look at the front of the house, Michael has, a statue of Mary prominently displayed. I mean, he had a light on it, a light shining on it at night. But that statue of Mary is, I'm not exactly sure what the custom is with regard to those sort of statues, but it's in very poor repair now. The paint is all faded away. It's covered in, little seeds and leaves and so on. I mean, it doesn't look very good. It looks like it probably should have been brought in for the winter or something like that. And then, on his front porch, there's a mailbox just stuffed with mail. And in the front window, the vertical blinds are sort of askew. And I mean, you know, it was very sad.
Almost like a deserted home.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like nobody had been there in weeks, and the plants are all dead and not taken care of. And, you know, there was a big bone in the front yard, I guess, where, you know, his dog, and there was a leash um, to some of the fencing in the front, as if, you know, he'd let his dog be out in the front yard with this big bone. Anyway, I guess that's not especially relevant, but no one is, I don't think anyone is there at
Well,
all.
which is, it's my understanding, because I've never been to Michael's home, so
Right.
I don't know, and I know you have, Christine, and he
Mhm.
took pride in his home.
Absolutely, he did. Yes, he did. I mean, he did quite a bit of entertaining. You know, certainly at his home in Ferndale, and then when he moved out to Warren, you know, he had people out regularly. I mean, he was good about that.
Okay.
I think he really enjoyed having people in his home. I do.
So this is really out of character is what I'm trying to say, folks, that Michael would leave his home in disarray because that is out of character for him. Even though I was never there at his house, many of the former staffers have said, you know, he always took he was very proud of his home and he took really good care of it. So, you know, we want to note that. So let's pivot, Christine, to the latest motion that was filed. And everyone, there was a flurry of documents filed and motions filed yesterday that
Mhm.
Christine and I just didn't have the time to go through. But Christine, it's your understanding that it looks like it's documents that are preparing for the jury and things like that.
It looked like that. You know, instructions for voir dire, you know, that's, you know, when you are questioning people for jury selection and so on. So honestly, but the point is, there was a flurry of them on the ninth, filed on the ninth. I'd say 12 to 15 documents. And that's a lot. They are preparing, they're preparing to go to trial. That's for sure.
Okay.
But, but for today, and probably of the greatest interest to us is, you know, this um, motion for evidentiary and monetary sanctions.
Let
So
me pull
I
it
just
up.
want to make I just want to make one comment. Yeah, once you go to the title page, yeah, there we go. So right up at the top, no, I'm sorry, kind of in the middle of the page, that's where it says the Very Reverend George F. Delaire, JCL, motion for evidentiary and monetary sanctions. Okay, so what are so before we get into that entirely, I just want to mention one thing that occurred to me today, Christine, is that, you know, in some ways, thank goodness for Father Delaire's lawsuit, because thanks to his lawsuit, we've been able to learn so much about Church Militant and how they've done business that we would not have known otherwise. So
Correct.
I mean, that's one of the really great things about our judicial system is, you know, this discovery process really brings out a lot of information for the public. These are public documents. And I would just say, you know, just like when we were talking about the 990, and I was saying, don't let it intimidate you. Don't let these lawsuits, you know, these kind of motions intimidate you either. Father Delaire's lawyers are very good writers. They're quite clear. It's they're long and they're detailed, but you can understand them, wouldn't you say, Christine?
I would, folks, this motion is 23 pages long, and it was not hard to figure out what they were doing. Um, and they are very good at linking other cases, which they have to do anyhow on these motions, that are similar to the motion that they want to file as reference points. Again, Christine and I are not attorneys, so we're doing our best here. But the crux of the motion is what, Christine?
Well, they're saying that that in the discovery process, they just abused the process. Well, let me just say one of the things.
Tell me what page to go to.
Let's see. Let's go to page 3, number 2.
Oh, shoot. It just kicked me out.
Oh, well, it'll take a moment.
Yeah. Give me a minute, folks. There we are.
Yeah. Okay, so page 3. Oh, this pagination is different.
Oh, okay.
No, it's page 3. Yeah. Oh, page 3 of 5, it's saying. So if you look up at the top, so
Are you
you're
seeing
not,
it on this page?
no, hold on just a minute.
Hold on, folks.
Yeah. Oh dear. I think you've maybe gone too far. Yeah. You want to go back. Wait.
So the first
Okay.
page, go ahead, Christine.
Okay, so you're on page 1. Now we're on page. Oh, okay? Go before that. Go back one. Okay, that's page 1.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think you're on the right document.
This is the document filed February 7th.
Okay, go to the top of the page. Okay, at the very top of the page, in sort of faint, it says, does it say document 223?
Yeah, document 223-1.
Okay, this one doesn't say that. It says just document 223, page 1 of 5.
Okay, maybe it's, oh, shoot. Here we go. I'm going to go down to the bottom.
There should be like a total of 80 pages in this document.
Okay, this document that I pulled up is 23 pages.
Yeah,
Now
that's not.
it's
Oh.
got tab A and it's got tab B.
Okay, so we're in different documents.
All right, well, this is the one you sent me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go back to the where you select the documents? Can you go back in Pacer?
Okay.
Go back one more.
I'm in the Pacer Service Center.
Yeah, but you're
Okay.
okay. Go. Okay. Oh. Oh, I can't see.
Well, what we're going to have to do is, folks, I'm so sorry about this. What we're going to have to do is just work with what we have now, Christine. So,
all right. Well, let me just say, then allow me to just say, and then then you can point out what, the other things, but,
okay.
So what Dallaire is saying, and I'll just quote directly from the document. It says, defendants, and we're talking about St. Michael's Media, defendants' obstructive tactics in the course of discovery, including but not limited to A, the spoliation of evidence, B, the willful and deliberate failure to disclose information and documents in the course of discovery, and C, other discovery abuses concerning the timing and method of discovery. Now, part of the abuse, as we know, is that they intimidated witnesses. They intimidated Balistreri so that he would not give testimony. And in not giving testimony, that then it prevents Father Dallaire from proving that the source that Balistreri was relying on for his comments about Father Dallaire are non-existent. So
yeah, that's the real problem, because the jury the jury will never be able to hear Balistreri's testimony because he is in default. And what happened is Voris intimidated him through text messages and did not want him to, said he was going to lie, and said, and this is all in the document, and says that he's committing mortal sin on his soul, and that he did not want Balistreri to testify. So Balistreri did not show up at the deposition. And because he did not show up at the deposition, which was a court order, he is now in default. And what does default mean? Default means that the plaintiffs automatically win that motion against Balistreri, and that if any monetary judgment is placed on Balistreri, that, game over. He has to pay it. He can come back to the court and say that there were circumstances that prevented him from doing the deposition, but he hasn't done that yet. As a matter of fact, what we have heard is that they can't locate Balistreri.
Now, I don't know about that, but the other thing you find in the document, and by the way, when I'm with you now on the document that you're in, so I'm okay with you.
I'll pull it back up then.
Yeah.
Okay, where do you want me to go?
Well, there was an opening piece that apparently you do not have, I guess.
Okay.
So, but I just want to say, let's go back to the witness tampering. Okay, so
yes.
So what happened was, Balistreri was actually willing to be deposed, and he was making arrangements to participate in the deposition. Simultaneously, Michael, and of course this came out in discovery, Michael is texting him and saying to him, "I will rain down on you publicly," and he doesn't say, if you participate in the deposition. It doesn't go that far, but it was very clear that he was trying to intimidate Balistreri. And of course, Balistreri backed out. So this particular motion, so it's a motion for evidentiary sanctions. And what that means is that Father Dallaire is asking the judge to, and they've already drafted the jury instructions. They want the jury to be instructed about all of this, that the witness tampering, how they've handled the discovery process, how they've obstructed in various ways. They want, and the fact that a key witness was not able to be deposed. So all of that will be jury instructions. So back to a conversation, Christine, that you and I had previously. So this is just a motion. Okay, there's been no ruling. I mean, we haven't gone through those documents that were filed on yesterday, Friday. But as far as we know, there's not a ruling from the judge on this motion. Okay, so I mean, it's possible that he'll say that he'll deny the motion, but based on our reading of the motion and just what we know about the case and how it's been handled and so on, it's very, very likely that he will grant this motion, and that the upcoming jury, will be given these instructions about how Church Militant behaved. So one of the things that I don't know if you have this or not. Do you have? Let's see, because of the pagination on here.
What I have up is the defendant's continued failure to comply with court deadlines, which is page 7. And this is also a complaint by the plaintiff. Is Church Militant was supposed to have had documents to them by a certain deadline on January 19th. They were given a brief extension for the deadlines for Voris and Carey in order to make an appearance of counsel or notice of their intent to represent themselves or not. And the new deadline was January 24th. But Church Militant was also given deadlines to supply information to the court. And they missed the deadline, which was February 2nd. And then the next day, they sent more or less a file dump. On February 3rd, it says, Church Militant provided a link to a Dropbox with a set of documents. Counsel proceeded to download and process these documents promptly upon the open of business on Monday morning, but due to the significant volume of data provided, the processing could not be completed until midnight on February 7th. And a review could not begin until later that morning. Once processed, Father Dallaire learned that the data included 30,663 documents, all in native format with no Bates numbers, which means they're supposed to file these documents in a certain format so that they don't have to rifle through things. And it goes on to say all prior productions by defendants, with the sole exception of those produced during Christine Niles' deposition, had been Bates stamped for ease of reference and coordination. Then it goes on to say, once the documents were duplicated by Father Dallaire, that number was reduced to around 10,000, meaning more than 20,000 documents produced by Church Militant were internally duplicated, and Church Militant did not make any effort at all to sort all of that out, shifting the burden to Father Dallaire. Now, Christine, I'll have you take it from there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's an affidavit from one of the attorneys who, has been tasked with, with managing this process. And she was saying that she said, on Saturday, February 3rd, I received an email from attorney Seth Hipple, counsel for defendant and St. Michael's Media, providing access to an unsecured Dropbox folder. So, and he writes, he writes in his email, I have been unable to combine these files into a single PDF and paginate them. Given time constraints, I am simply sending you the files. Please copy them from this folder at your earliest convenience, as my firm is not the only one with access to this folder. So it turns out, in addition to what you just described, 30,000 documents, 20,000 of them duplicates, 10,000 brand new documents. So, and prior to that, Church Militant had only submitted around 2,000 documents. Okay, so here at the very last minute, they're submitting 10,000 new documents for Delaire's firm to try and sort out. And this attorney points out that it costs them 60. So one of the things they have to do is, I guess, use some sort of software that puts this in a format so that it can be searchable. I mean, that's the other thing they're trying to do. And so it says that to get all this data on a document review platform costs them $1,600 a month. Okay, so I mean, so there's cost associated with it. There's just unbelievable. You can imagine those lawyers are having to work 24/7 to look through this. And one of the things that they discovered already is that there's privileged information, attorney-client privileged information among some of this. So I feel sorry for Mr. Hipple, or whatever his name is. Is it Hipple? Seth Hipple. I feel sorry for him. He's just trying to get the kitchen sink, everything to them, so that they won't be further sanctioned. But in doing that, he's created actually more problems for them.
Well, and the motion goes on to say, as is clear from these recent productions and timing thereof, that even with new counsel, Church Militant has new counsel, Church Militant continues to abuse and disregard the discovery rules and process, seeking to sandbag Father Delaire through late disclosures and production of documents. This court should not countenance these litigation by ambush tactics.
Now we should say, of course, as we pointed out, we're not lawyers. And of course, any motion like this is going to use very strong language. Okay. So, I mean, they're advocating for these sanctions. And so they're really making a very as strong a case as possible that, that Church Militant, or that St. Michael's Media, Michael Voris, and so on, should be sanctioned. But as we know, there are certain facts that you just can't get around. The fact that they keep missing deadlines, the fact that they withheld documents, the fact that at the 11th hour they're sending them 10,000 new documents.
Exactly. And here's the part in the motion where it says, unbeknownst to Father Delaire, while Ballesteri was making agreements to attend his deposition, defendant Voris was texting him the threat that should be testified Church Militant would rain down on him publicly. This was a clear instance of witness tampering, resulting in Father Delaire's inability to question the key witness in this case. It sounds like the mafia.
It does. I mean, it's the sort of strong arm tactics that are shameful. It's the fact that Michael would threaten someone like that, and then not, as you pointed out, Christine, not just threaten him, but then try to justify it by saying, oh, I was trying to, for the sake of his soul, I
Mhm.
was trying to keep him from, testifying, lying under oath.
Yeah, it goes all through me when people start with the spiritual sabotage and the spiritual manipulation. And, just like uh, uh, Voris has no idea how Ballesteri's actions will harm his soul, no more than we can know how Michael's actions will harm his soul. And, everyone gets on their Catholic bandwagon and wants to point pictures and said, you sinned because you said this, or you sinned because you said that. God has the final judgment. He's the one that has the final judgment. And to use the your soul as the reason, is it just goes all through me when this happens.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
the conclusion of this document, let me get to it. In light of the foregoing, Father Delaire seeks sanctions in the form of eternal attorney fees and cost incurred as a result of defendants' obstructive conduct and failures to comply with their discovery obligations, including court orders and instruction to the jury concerning the facts of the defendant's misconduct concerning Ballesteri, and permitting an inference that due to Father Delaire's inability to dispose and conduct further discovery concerning Ballesteri's so-called sources, that there were no sources, and the defamation statements that rely on so-called sources are therefore false. Now, of course, that's attorneys speak, but this is the motion that's in front of the judge.
mhm. Yeah. And honestly, it's still a big question mark. Exactly what happened there. I guess Michael is afraid that Balistreri is going to. I mean, it's possible that Balistreri would lie. I mean, that's possible. I mean, I don't know anything about the guy. I know he's a canon lawyer. I've talked to him a couple of times on the phone in relation to my reporting. But given the pressure on him, is it possible he would lie under oath? I think it's entirely possible that he would.
So Deb asks, how did they get the text message Michael Voris sent to Ballesteri?
It was part of discovery.
Yeah, it was
So
part of discovery.
yeah, and so each side, yeah, Father Delaire's counsel sends St. Michael's Media's counsel saying, these are the documents we want. So it's discovery instructions. And so those instructions will say, we want to see every email, every text message, every video, we want everything that ever transpired between St. Michael's Media and Balistreri. And so they have to produce it.
And again, they're not supposed to do a document dump. There's a procedure the court has to share that information with the opposing counsel, and Church Militant didn't do that. Now, Christine and I talked about this a little bit off air. It could be they didn't know how to do it. It could be they didn't have the funds to be able to hire someone to do it for them. We don't know. We're just speculating at this point why they did what they did with that dump. It was a day late and apparently a dollar short too. So, Christine, what else do you want to point out?
Well, I did want to mention that, you know, not only did one of the problems in the discovery process is that there were emails between St. Michael's Media, and Balistreri, in which he had adopted some sort of false name. Okay. So he was communicating with them with another name. Okay. So, I mean, that's the level of technique these folks are going through. I mean, that he's got a separate email address and with a different name. Then the other thing they did was they were sending text messages through a platform so that, and this is in the motion, this is mentioned in the motion, because I didn't know it before. I don't think I knew it before. That would automatically delete text messages. So there's information, even though in discovery they're asking for all the text messages, some of them were automatically deleted because they were communicating through this, like CIA liked, communication tactic.
Yeah, if you use Signal as a text app, you can actually set it that it will automatically delete all your texts within so many hours or 24 hours later, or whatever you have it set for. So there are texting apps that can do that. And Signal is one of them. And Signal is also an app that I've used to text some folks at Church Militant when I worked at Church Militant. So, it could have been that app that they were using. We don't know. That's just a speculation. So,
I mean, I'm sure there are times and places when that's needed or necessary, but people who are just trying to conduct business on a day-to-day level, who are, sort of above board and, doing what they're supposed to, who uses that stuff? Maybe I'm naive.
Well, there's also a app called Slack, and a lot of businesses use Slack because they can download their documents on Slack, and they can just send them out to their team in one text message. And you can also set up, I believe you can set up Slack to delete it all as well. So, yeah, businesses do use those type of apps just to streamline everything. But, we don't know what specific app that Church Militant was using that all of this was deleted. Oh, James says you're a jewel, Christine Chrisley.
Well,
Thank you, James.
well, thank you. Back at you.
I think she's a jewel too, and she was a jewel to work with as well. And Christine, there seems to be this controversy stirring again. Was I forced to resign, or did I resign?
Oh no. I mean, you and I were, at that time, we were talking fairly regularly. I knew, a lot about your situation, and you made the decision. You had other opportunities. You were able to leave. So
Yes.
no, you were not fired. You left and immediately went to a new position.
That afternoon, by matter of fact.
Yeah.
It was that afternoon.
Yeah.
So you guys, that'll be going around social media too, that I was forced to resign.
No.
But thank you for clarifying that, Christine, because she was there and she knew. And she knew the day I resigned too. I've got the email. Maybe I should put up the email sometime.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I do have the email. I'll have to dig that out. All right. Okay, JM says, oh, she's responding. YG was fired apparently. Okay, so if you want to talk a little bit more about Mr. Nyghtstorm, again, Christine, for those that got in late, everyone, he was fired we don't know. It was around the time he was supposed to be on the Retreat at the Sea cruise. So the Retreat at the Sea cruise was February 4th through the 11th. He, as I showed earlier, he was a guest speaker on the cruise, but on February 5th or 6th, I think it was 5th, he posted a tweet on X that he was no longer with Church Militant and he tried to help them. So Christine, you were there longer than me. What are the chances that YG was totally wrong that they wouldn't listen to him?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What YG said that he tried to help them and they didn't listen.
Yeah. Well,
what's your experience with Church Militant listening?
Well, so the two things I heard from my sources, and by the way, those sources are somewhat remote from the situation. It was a person who is no longer with Church Militant, but who is in communication with people who still are at Church Militant. And what I heard through my sources is that there was a feeling that Mr. Nyghtstorm wasn't Catholic enough. And secondly, that he was actually pressing the board and asking them about how they came to some of their decisions. And specifically, when they let everyone go. And so I guess he was pressing them too much about how they were conducting business. Now you and I both know, from our experience, just longstanding experience in the business world, if you hire somebody, especially at a very high level, an executive director, and like a month later they're gone, you've made a very bad hire that's cost the organization a lot of time and money. So they are back to square one. They're again in a global search. Is that what they were saying? That they did a global search? They're in a global search for, a leader. So once again, the organization is very destabilized at the moment, to the point that they're, sending all these documents at late documents. They're obviously just making one error after another. It's very sad to see.
It is. It's just one more piece of evidence, folks, that the Church Militant board just is clueless. They continue to make bad decisions. They brought YG on, YG Nyghtstorm, and Benedict John says, who is YG and Nyghtstorm? They're one and the same.
Yeah.
Benedict, his name is YG Nyghtstorm. And he was brought on to be the executive director at Church Militant, and only lasted, a few months, if that. And now he's gone. So,
it had to be less than 2 months. It had to be less than 2 months. And Christine, it just occurs to me, I can't figure out why, under the circumstances, the Church Militant, the St. Michael's Media, and all of them wouldn't just say, we're willing to settle. We want to settle. Why wouldn't they?
I don't understand that either, because the evidence is not in their favor. I don't understand why they're not trying to settle. And to me, get it done and over with and move on, because this whole thing with court is supposed to start March 5th or 6th.
So I thought it was, I wanted to say March 2nd, but
it's early. It's early in March. I know that.
Yeah. Let me just look and see what the 2nd is. No, you're right. It's either the 4th or the 5th.
Yeah.
The 4th is a Monday, the 5th is a Tuesday. I want to say the 5th, but because it seemed odd that they were going to start jury selection on a Tuesday, but it looks like that's maybe what they're going to do.
And who knows? Maybe they will settle before all of that. But it looks like from the document dump on Friday that they're moving forward all steam ahead to go to trial.
Well, I guess if they didn't comply with the order to produce the documents in discovery, then they would have had a default judgment against them potentially. So I guess that's why maybe that's why they just gave them everything and hoped that would be okay. But now they've just racked up you can imagine Delaire's counsel is just, they're going to bill them at 10, every 10 minutes, at what, $500 an hour as they sort through these documents. They're going to consider that part of the expense of, litigating the case. It's frightening to even contemplate.
Yeah, it is. It is. We're talking a lot of money and a lot more than 200,000 than what we sat in on that court hearing that Father Delaire was asking Michael Sherry about. They're trying to set everything up and agree on things so that if there is a settlement, this is what they'll get, or even when they go to court, that's what they'll get. But because of the recent document dump that Church Militant did, they're now saying, oh, no. This is going to cost us a lot more money because we've had to hire people to sort through this. So this is not good. All right. Anybody have any questions? Any questions? I've kind of, let me go through here and see if there's any questions. I got a lot of comments. If you could put Q in front of your text, that would help me see if you have a question. Christine, do you have anything that you want to end on?
No, I just went back and looked, at all those documents that were filed on Friday. I didn't see a response from Church Militant with regard to this motion for sanctions. I honestly don't know if that's traditional, that you file a motion, they get to respond, and then I would think that's how it goes. They file a motion for sanctions. Church Militant has the opportunity to respond to that motion. Then the judge rules. So my point is, I didn't see any ruling on the motion, and I didn't see anything from Church Militant responding to the motion. So it looks like it's just a lot of formalities in relation to getting ready for trial, which, it's very, very expensive and time consuming to prepare for trial. No lawyer wants to do it. They want to settle.
They have less than a month. And they have less than a month to do it.
Yeah. That poor Mr. Hibble who is defending.
Yeah. All right, folks. Christine, just stay with me and I'll do my best to end. And I've got some announcements to make if you want to stay on. So thank you, Christine.
Oh, thank you, Christine.
All right, folks. I'm sorry that we started kind of got all messed up there with that document. There's just so much to review. And of course, we will come back as we learn more things as the month progresses. But Lent is coming up. I don't know why, but Lent is my favorite time as a Catholic. I don't know why. But Tuesday evening, I'm going to be doing a live stream on my Lenten thoughts that I want to share with you. And then I have some guests that are booked. Now, the first one is Father Walter. And Father, if you're watching, excuse me, I'm not going to say your name because I will absolutely butcher your name up. But he sent me a beautiful historical account of Simeon. And I have asked him to come on and present this to you all. It is fascinating when I read it. So I want Father Walter, he's coming on to explain all of that to you and share that with you. And I can't wait to have him on because I was absolutely spellbound reading what he sent me. And then we have coming back Father Nathan Castle. Father Nathan has been on before. And if you don't know Father Nathan Castle, he's very unique. And he doesn't talk to souls. When he goes to sleep, souls come to him. And they come to him for help. And usually these are souls that have died in very tragic accidents or situations. He'll have the dream and then he'll wake up the next day and he'll research these souls, their name and their situations, and he finds actual evidence of what they died of. He can substantiate their names. He does this fascinating work, and he is coming on at the end of February. So be watching the channel for the updates. I will post them all. And that's what we have coming up in February. Some more. There's one more thing. Okay. Father, I'm working on one other guest to come on, and I still have not gotten a confirmation. And as soon as I do, and this is church militant related, I'll let you know. But more than anything, everyone, pray for everyone involved at Church Militant, this lawsuit. Please, especially pray for Anita Carey, who got caught up in all of this. She really needs our prayers. And of course, pray for Michael Voris. So I want to end with that because remember, everyone, eternal life is forever. You really don't die, you continue to live. So take it seriously. Got a plan? Bye bye. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all.